It's supposed to be hens, but shout out to the Cuomos. Let's talk about it, y'all.
Middle America.
Well, well. Here's Chris Cuomo after earlier this week we had a independent investigation from the Attorney General.
Yep.
Is this the Trump-appointed Attorney General? No, this is a Biden.
New York.
This is the Biden. This person's a Democrat, right?
Oh yeah, the entire Democratic Party was calling for his head. The entire Democratic Party. Joe Biden himself was calling for him to resign.
Yeah, I mean, look, Mr. Cuomo. It's really interesting how much of a difference 365 days makes. Because a year ago, people were saying that the Democratic Party should drop Joe Biden and go with Cuomo.
As the president?
Yeah, because Cuomo was doing, daily updates about COVID, and his popularity skyrocketed.
Oh, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
He did like the little updates and stuff.
Yeah, he did the updates every single day, and his popularity went through the roof. And so Rising and those folks were speculating, and Jen kind of did a little quick thing, like maybe they were going to drop Biden and go with Cuomo because Cuomo was so popular.
Yeah.
And a lot of that popularity obviously had to do with the fact that he was kind of the only one doing basic common sense stuff. Biden was being told to hide in his bunker, and then Trump was out doing the crazy Trump thing, and Cuomo was the only one that sounded like an adult when he was talking about the COVID situation over in New York.
I see.
Of course. Why are you reacting like that?
I don't know. You say Trump was doing his crazy stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Trump was being Trump. You know the deal.
I mean, I thought he did pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. This guy, some resident Trump support.
He was ahead of the curve. He stopped travel from China.
Okay, all right.
And then the freaking Democrats got on the way with that, as they always do.
Listen, Trump doing that thing about China is like DMX playing a gangster in a movie. Like, I'm not going to give him any credit for that. Trump was doing travel bans, like, before travel bans were necessary. Remember he had the Muslim ban?
Yeah.
Like, that's just his thing. It just so happened that a dead clock was right twice a day.
You're saying that he just randomly decided to ban China for no reason, and then, oh, look, here's the coronavirus?
I'm not going to argue about Trump. This is about Andrew Cuomo right now.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
right.
So here's Mr. Cuomo. Here's Mr. Cuomo. What's going on, XBM? What's going on, everybody? Shout out to all the Middle Americans in the house. Here's Mr. Cuomo after numerous situations in which women came forward and talked about their experiences with Mr. Cuomo.
We've got 11 confirmed cases so far.
11 confirmed cases. Of course, his brother was not allowed in February. His brother was not allowed by CNN to cover the scandal. Although all of last year, him and his brother, Chris Cuomo, on CNN were going back and forth, and they were making fun of each other's noses and blah, 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 blah. It was a big family affair.
That sounds fun.
And then when the harassment stuff emerged, his brother was no longer able to cover him because CNN said it would be a conflict of interest, even though...
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, then why did they let him cover him before?
Wait, when did they stop letting
They let him cover his brother during all the Corona stuff when his brother was Mr. Popular. They let Chris Cuomo cover him then. But then when the allegations came out, then all of a sudden it was a conflict of interest. So now... Now, here we are. Everybody's telling this dude to resign, and I guess this is the video, so let's check it out, y'all.
This is his apology speech.
This situation, by its current trajectory, will generate months of political and legal controversy. That is what is going to happen. That is how the political wind is blowing. It will consume government. It will cost taxpayers millions of dollars.
Okay, so he's saying if they furthered the investigation, it would consume the government and cost taxpayers millions of dollars.
I guess because they're talking about impeachment, which is a very long process. I guess that's what he's referring to.
Yeah, he is, because they were floating around the impeachment stuff, and he had no he had no supporters. All the people that had his back a year ago, they all abandoned ship because he's nuclear. Because unlike recent events, there are corroborated evidences and multiple witnesses. And as I said before, when it comes to sexual harassment, it's generally never only one person.
Yeah.
So recently, there was an accusation about a person about a month or two ago, where that person supposedly committed sexual harassment. And one of the points that I made was, it is extremely rare that a sexual harasser only harasses one woman. Yeah. In my experience, if one comes to you, that means he's done it to 5 people. That was always my rule. So this right here fits the pattern of what a sexual harasser does. This is exactly what they do. They never only limit it to one person, and they generally never go after the most powerful person first. Now, for those of you who know what I'm talking about, you can see the difference, right? Okay. So he's saying, so what he's saying here is, hey, I'm about to pull out of this situation because I don't want to cause the American taxpayer millions of dollars. And this is going to consume the government. Yeah. No, I don't think it's going to. Well, I will say this. I do think that there are things that Trump could have accomplished that the impeachment stuff inhibited him from. Because what ends up happening is these guys, instead of legislating or instead of doing what they were elected to do, go into defense mode, rightly so, right? When you throw around impeachment. And impeachment is supposed to be an extremely rare thing in politics.
Yep.
Impeachment is not supposed to be something that gets thrown out every 2 seconds. But now, because of the events in the last 4 years, things have changed. Yeah. And now impeachment is on the table for damn near anything. Mm-hmm. So he's saying, hey, I mean, we haven't seen the video in its entirety yet, but I'm assuming he's doing this setup so that he can then say, I'm going to bow out for the sake of the good people of New York. We continue.
It will brutalize people.
It will brutalize people. An impeachment investigation would brutalize people. I think it would brutalize you. I think it would brutalize your brother. But I don't think it would brutalize your average New Yorker. I think if we want to talk about people being brutalized, I think we could talk about the women that had to work in an environment where they had no bodily integrity because the guy that was at the head of the operation was a serial sexual harasser. That's brutal. You know, when I think about my daughter having to work in that kind of environment, that's brutal. But people doing an investigation so these women can be heard finally, that's not brutal. And if he resigns, that would actually, to me, I'm not really a fan of that. I wish that the girls that he was dealing with, that all of them could be, get their day to say, hey, this happened to me. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't believe it was only 11 young women, but go ahead.
In civil court, you mean? After he resigns?
Well, I mean, I think personally they could try to hold him liable, but he's got the best lawyers in the world. What I mean is I don't believe it was only 11.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish
11 confirmed cases.
Right. I wish that more women would be able to get their day in court or whatnot, but that's not going to happen if we're right and he's really resigning here.
The State Assembly yesterday outlined weeks of process that will then lead to months of litigation. Time and money that government should spend managing COVID, guarding against the Delta variant, reopening upstate, fighting gun violence, and saving New York City. All that time would be wasted.
Oh, he's right about that.
This is one of the most challenging times for government in a generation. Government really needs to function today. Government needs to perform. It is a matter of life and death, government operations. And wasting energy on distractions is the last thing that state government should be doing.
Whoa, 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 bro. Whoa, 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 whoa. We mean wasting money. See, this is the mindset of these people. Now, listen. DL is probably going to be, in political office in very short order, right?
Yes.
If you had 11 people that accused you, and you came to me and said, Father, I am 100,000% innocent, I wouldn't say the investigation is a waste of time.
Yeah.
DL and I would be holding a press conference demanding an investigation if I truly believed he was innocent. Anytime these people do one of these press conferences, it's always almost worse than whatever the thing they're accused of, because they always say things like this that communicate to us they have no respect for us whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what in the world? Does anybody... You're doing this because you're
denying. He's never actually said that he's done it.
Huh?
He's never actually said that he's done this.
Well, of course, he's going to deny, which is fine. He's allowed to do that. But why would you want to kill the investigation when you know this is the narrative if you thought you were innocent, Mr. Cuomo? Come on now. We're not dumb. Holy moly.
I wonder who he thinks he's fooling.
And I cannot be the cause of that. New York tough means New York loving. And I love New York.
Okay, New York tough means New York. I'm from New York, and that is a thing. That is a thing. Yeah.
That sounds very nice.
Yeah, people from New York, we all think that we're, like there's something special in the soil or something like that. But New York tough means New York loving, and I love New York. All right.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He's from New York. Why wouldn't he love New York?
See, this is my major issue.
Oh yes, the whole old
this
people
is
thing. That was awful.
Yeah. So we're gonna let Cuomo say this dumbness, and then we're gonna keep going. Shout out to Kai.
Man.
And I love you.
Oh.
And everything I have.
He loves us. Here's Larry Fine. I'm innocent, so I'm stepping down. We continue.
Ever done has been motivated by that love. Mm-hmm. And I would never want to be unhelpful in any way. And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing.
All right, we shouldn't laugh at that. Okay, so there it is. He is officially okay. So if I step aside, then everything can go back.
I don't remember Trump doing this.
Well, no, Trump obviously has a much bigger ego than Chris Cuomo. And the other thing is that Chris Cuomo doesn't have the strength to run the party. He doesn't run the Democratic Party. Obama does.
That's true.
So Trump basically initiated a hostile takeover in 2016 of the Republican Party. It was. I mean, it was legal. It was a legal hostile takeover, unlike the second attempted hostile takeover. But we'll shoot that in a second. As Brian says, I wonder who wrote that. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of cringy when a politician tells you that they love you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, Jimmy Carter will go out and build houses with Habitat for Humanity. Like, do stuff like that. Like, I don't want to hear from a politician that he loves me. Like, that's just cringy.
Very cringy.
And it's got this, like, almost, like, patriarchal feel to it. Like, you guys are not my parents. You're an elected public servant. Okay? So you serve the public, and we pay you. That's the nature of the relationship. I don't need you to love me, big bro. I got DL. DL loves me. My wife loves me. Kids love me. I don't need you to love me. I just need you to legislate in such a way as to not screw up the lives of the people that I actually love and the people that you actually love. Okay, we continue. Holy moly.
And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me. It's about we. Kathy Hochul, my lieutenant governor, is smart and competent. This transition must be seamless. We have a lot going on. I'm very worried about the Delta variant, and so should you be. but she can come up to speed quickly.
Oh, you're worried about the Delta variant, and so should we be. And then how did you handle Mr. Cuomo? How did you handle the COVID situation? How did Mr. Cuomo handle the COVID situation?
I think he forcibly euthanized a bunch of elderly people, something along those lines.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far as saying he forcibly euthanized them.
He euthanized them against their will.
But
they didn't wish to be euthanized.
Here we go. And it's so funny in our country, he did all that shit to the elderly and that didn't bring him down. It's the sexual harassment stuff that brought him down. And like I said, sexual harassment is important, but this dude got his brother, the hookup with the COVID shots and all the rest of it. I mean, it was unbelievable. This guy, the nerve of him to bring up COVID in this situation, as Aya just said, he gave his brother special treatments for the test. Exactly. But he loves New York. he loves everybody. Greater chance to end up in a hospital from his harassments and the Delta variants. Correct. Because the trauma that those women had to endure, and again, this is in my mind, a very legitimate sexual harassment claim. We're talking about the Attorney General here. This is not a sexual harassment claim that got litigated on Facebook and YouTube. This is one that was investigated by an actual investigator who was a Democrat, by the way. And here we go. So, yes. That's a very, very important point. But as people in the comment section have already pointed out, these are people who handled the COVID situation in nightmarish fashion. Nightmarish fashion.
The worst state for COVID?
Well, yeah. Now I will say New York is the worst state for COVID, but New York is also the most congested area. It's not as big as people think that it is, and so when you have a pandemic like Corona, New York is going to get hit no matter what you do. Because think about it, we're all on the subway together. You're packed in this tube, especially during rush hour. You're literally you are pressed onto another person's body for that 10-minute ride. What? So, oh yeah, and rush hour on the train, on the 5 train and 149th Grand Concourse, forget it. People literally squash into capacity. So, New York was already doomed as far as COVID goes. It was already doomed. So, I don't really agree with the complete lockdowns nationwide, although we complied with it. But I definitely think cities like New York should have had a complete and total shutdown. And then we channel the money from the other states that aren't shut down to hold up New York, because those were the main spots. You got places like Montana where there's massive, distance just due to the geography. Yeah. Right. Place like Maine, similar situation. Yeah. But a place like New York where people are forced to congregate, you have a bunch of people in a small area. I mean, if we had to do it over again, that would have taken an entire nation to help that one state. That's how I look at it. But we continue. And as Brett is saying, the 7 train after U.S. Open and Mets games ending at the same time is crazy. Yeah, I mean, there's no way in the world that anybody from New York was going to be able to do that by themselves. That would have had to be a national strategy. All right, we continue.
My resignation will be effective in 14 days.
Okay, so he's out in 2 weeks. So there it is. In 2 weeks, he's going to be gone. So he basically gave New York a 2 weeks notice, which is what you want. That's what you're supposed to do. So shout out to Cuomo for the 2 weeks notice.
This situation, by its current trajectory, will generate months of political and legal controversy.
Wait. That was a rewind, right?
Yeah.
And doing the right thing by that love.
Oh, is that it?
Competent. This transition must speed quickly.
All right, he's
and
done.
My resignation.
Okay. All right, thank you for sharing. Look, man. The reason I didn't necessarily want to cover this story because I have a policy of not getting into people's personal lives.
Oh, yeah, like the Hunter situation? What was
the
the other situation? You don't
yeah,
want
the
to do a
Hunter
video
situation, you
about
know,
Joe Bayo, I think is what it was.
issues with Ilhan and her personal life. Like I don't. That's not important to me. So I generally skip those because I don't want to do the whole. We're gonna be TMZ. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we stay away from that. But this is different. The reason is one is this is what sexual harassment really truly looks like, and we spent a lot of time covering in what my mind was an abuse of the Me Too movement a couple months ago. But this issue, to me, is the legitimacy of the Me Too movement. And that's why I was so upset, because you have legitimate situations where women were legitimately put in horrible situations by a guy who had way too much power and not enough accountability. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. I don't care what you call yourself. These are the kinds of situations that then metastasize into other things, because now what happens is you've got a guy who is in a I don't know why we're accepting this stuff. Like, I don't care what side you're on. How could we be fine with Chris Cuomo being able to interview his brother Andrew Cuomo and using one of the largest news outlets in the world, CNN, to kind of give this guy airtime and make him the darling of America? Like, we should have called bullshit from that moment. You see what I'm saying? Like, the fact that it took this situation to unseat this guy tells me that we're not in a place where something like this can't happen again. Because you know, there are so many violations of how we're supposed to operate, you know, the American media and all the rest of it. Thank you, Peggy. Really appreciate the super chat. And if we missed anybody else's super chat, we apologize. But yeah, man, like this situation here, this is not, you know, rare. It's not as rare as we want to believe that it is. And on top of the fact that, yeah, this guy was pretty horrible to the people that he worked with. So, you know, we have these conversations all the time where I say nobody gets away with anything.
Yeah, this is definitely what I saw this.
Yeah, and you know, that's another reason I wanted us to cover it, because, you know, here's a guy who it looked like he got away with it, but it eventually came out.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, you're going to be a powerful guy. You're going to have access to a lot of wealth and a lot of people and all that. You just can't forget the lessons. Nobody gets away with anything, right? And we treat women as image bearers of God. And whatever power God has given you, it's for you to protect people, not to take advantage of them. Yeah. And so that's what that's sort of a consistent mantra that we teach in our household. But sometimes it's hard to kind of believe that that's true until you see a powerful guy get taken out over this nonsense because he couldn't control himself. Go ahead. What were you saying?
This is the second time, because this first happened with Matt Gaetz,
right?
And then now it's on the Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, he did. And again,
what?
I didn't want to cover.
They can't be true.
No. That happened. I didn't want to cover this because, again, I don't want us to be the tabloids. Okay. So I just thought to myself, when something definitive happens, we're going to jump in here and do something. But he did. They shot a video and they were trying to make it sound like, hey, this is what happens, man. We're Italian, you know, we're very, you know, because, you know, the stereotype of Italians are very expressive people and, you know, they're just very out there. Yeah. And they're very physical in their displays of affection. So that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to say, hey, it's not that I was sexually harassing. It's just an Italian culture thing.
I had never heard of an Italian grabbing a random girl's breast before.
Well, correct. I mean, he's grabbing body parts. I mean, if it was one of those things where he would take your face in his hands and kiss you, like, that wouldn't be excusable, but I'd be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but he wasn't doing that.
But that's not what he was doing. The ridiculous and you know, like, again, like, I'm not Italian, so you know what I'm saying.
Amy
but
Lee's father was Italian. I guess he never did that.
Who?
Amy Lee.
Oh yeah, Amy. yeah. Again, like, that's such an insult to Italian people. Like, oh, don't hire that Italian guy. He's going
Oh
to
my
grope your
gosh.
breast. Like,
oh goodness.
how does that help you? Like, how does it help you to throw an entire ethnicity under the bus because you can't keep your shit together? Ridiculous. Ranner Matt says, by the way, subscribe to Ranner Matt's channel. There was a play in this. Last year, Nursing Home came out, then came to Sexual Harassment. Headlines went there instead. He leaves disgrace for sexual harassment, not taken out for the nursing home. That's true, because if he would have got taken out for what happened in the nursing home, that's possible criminal charges, right?
Yeah.
Because people ended up dying over that shit.
Biden's not Italian.
So yeah, man, like this is absolutely crazy stuff, and this just shows you what happens when you have powerful people who, I'm not going to say feel like they're above the law, who have been above the law and have never felt like I don't care, Democrat, Republican, and this is, again, as I'm thinking about, sitting on the outside looking in on the progressive wing. There's a lot of really good energy right now. The Democratic Party is obviously very vulnerable. I do think it's time for a third party. I know a lot of people think that that's crazy, but I'm with Jimmy on this. We got to have a third party. But this is, I really hope that progressives can do something different when it comes to bullshit like this. You know what I mean? And I wish there was a sort of like I was talking about this with one of my buddies that I just discovered on this channel, actually. And, trying to set some sort of standard for progressive politicians and setting hey, definitely we're going to do our own internal investigation. But if it comes out this way, we're not going to let you do this bullshit. Like we're going to have significant consequences as a party or as a people for people who abuse power like this. And
like a John Tyler situation.
Yeah, I think if progressives can really figure out how to internally create an actual convention and things of that nature, where we could self-police, like the best case scenario for progressives would be that progressives out this shit like this, and then execute the affairs in front of everybody, so that we can see like, oh wow, this is a different political party. Because look, Biden told him to resign and all the rest of it, but that's just because he was clearly dead to rights.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I mean, Biden's still did the same stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what... Well, yeah. But, yeah, let's just go with that narrative, yeah.
Yeah. Like, there really needs to be a way for, progressive... Because, look, it doesn't matter what their political affiliations are. Human beings are going to do what human beings do, right? So, once in a while, it doesn't matter how great the progressive is, the guy is going to slip or the girl's going to slip. And my thing is, how do you hold them accountable? And that's something that has got to be part of the discussion, because I do believe that there is a silent group of Americans who, they look at the wagon circling and they look at situations like Cuomo and they're like, they're never going to get used to it. And I think that's great. And I think a lot of Americans have been completely jaded by the process, so that if you're on Team Democrat or if you're on Team Republican and you see situations like this, we all grew up in it. I grew up during the Clinton, situation. Like, we're just so used to these people lying and not facing justice and then being able to get off and say bullshit like this. It would be crazy if the progressives found a way to really, really say, no, we're going to be different. We're going to hold ourselves accountable. We're going to be more ruthless with our candidates than the media would be. And I think that would signal to a large group of Americans, holy shit, something is different is happening over there than we've ever experienced. But if the progressives, stand people up and start, doing the same nonsense that we've seen from the Democrats and the Republicans, and we're truly screwed and we have no hope. Guys, it looks like Jimmy, okay. I just got a notification from Jimmy, but I thought Jimmy was live. I was like, get off of here and go watch Jimmy Dore. Yeah, the Democrats will never look inside of themselves, as Evil One says. And so the Democrats or the Republicans won't. And so what I'm saying is, man, if we can find a way to get progressives to really, really find a way to deal with this, I think it'll be in good shape. What's your final thoughts on the matter, DL?
Final thoughts on the matter. Well, I don't know what you would call this. But this, as you said, it seems like this is a normal, standard procedure. Life as an American or life as a politician. This stuff, comes around. We saw it with, Nixon, Clinton, other politicians along the way. Now Cuomo. And then Matt Gaetz a little before that. So this feels sort of like, standard procedure, whatever. And, but yeah, I think that this is some good takeaways we can take away from this about, the parties holding each other accountable so that this wouldn't happen, so they can sort of gain that trust from the people. Yeah.
And, the only positive I can take out of this is, and shout out to the women who finally came out and they were able to get their day in court. And for the other ones who did, God knows. And so it'll be, I believe that God squares everything. But it's a real thing, man, that women have to go through in the workplace on a real practical level. And so that's something that I hope that progressives can really lead the way on, because I think, I always say people never rise above their leadership. So there's a lot of men who are watching how Cuomo handles himself. And I understand grown men are grown men, but that's the example. And I think we need new examples of how to conduct ourselves in these types of situations, whether they're with our team or not. And the other thing is, you have got to have alternates, people that could step in immediately because of these contingencies. Because a lot of the reasons that people overlook this stuff is because they have all this hope into one candidate or one person. I mean, they were talking about Cuomo, again, unseating Biden and becoming the president last year. People were speculating that. So because you only have one or two candidates that you truly believe in, you're going to look the other way. You're going to get tempted to look the other way. I mean, that's what happened with the Me Too situation with Biden. I think most of us believe Biden's accuser over Biden. But what happened last year was, because there was this giant emergency and Trump was Hitler, we needed to get him out of there, and Biden, in the minds of people, was the only viable candidate, they had to look away.
Yep.
So one of the reasons that the Me Too movement kind of fizzles out when it gets inserted into geopolitics is that situation. I only have one or two guys that I believe in, so if this guy isn't it, then we're going to lose. So one of the things progressives need to do is get a real strong bench, so that if a man goes down or a woman goes down, we have a woman right there that can replace her and keep it moving. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But when you only have one candidate that's strong, then you're going to have a situation like this. So that's kind of how I look at it. Well, there you go, ladies and gents. If Jimmy Dore is on, go watch him. Our Jimmy Dore interview is coming very, very soon. Don't sue us for false advertising. It is coming. Having said that, dear listener, we got another super chat. Hold on. Shout out to Jay Vale. We got the little title. We're the champions. We are the champions. But yeah. So thank you guys so much. We took a little vacay, but we're back, and be careful what you wish for, because we might end up starting to do back to back shows, and God knows what that's gonna do to y'all. All right. Huh?
I'm in America.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of them. We've got a bunch of them on the way coming for the beautiful people. Hope you all have a fantastic day, y'all. In the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.